Chapter 91, here we are again. Already, we're moving away from Trunks and Goten. It really feels like these chapters have been flying by. At least the pacing, I mean. It's so fast compared to the previous arcs, but it's understandable. Still, I can't believe the Trunks arc is already over. Really, I remember when the prequel arc was first announced. I was excited, as Goten and Trunks haven't had any real sort of shine in a long time, so I was really hoping something would come out of the arc besides a romantic comedy between Trunks and Mai, that weird relationship, but it's no big deal. Personally, I don't mind slice of life arcs or slow build-up. To me, the waiting can be just as fun, just having Black Frieza to look forward to eventually, but first needing to get the manga's version of the superhero movie out of the way. But anyway, into the chapter. We start off with Piccolo having to pick up Pan just like in the movie because Gohan and Videl are too busy. And really, I'm not the type of guy to say Piccolo is being a father again, but sometimes you can't really blame the people that do with the way he's constantly put in positions where he's essentially another guardian for the Sun family, having to train and look after Gohan for a while, and now look at him, having to pick up Pan from school like the uncle he kinda is at this point. Now, I will say it's very nice to see Piccolo and Pan actually interact in Super compared to GT. As much as I love GT, I gotta give props to Super for making this relationship between these two a thing. But what we see here is that Pan has taken somewhat of an inspiration from Goten and Trunks due to their Saiyaman personas, and she's taken an interest in fighting because of it, which is kind of neat. But one thing I instantly thought of when seeing this next page of Pan just risking her neck for this Ginyu looking frog is that she's a stark contrast when compared to Gohan as a child. The way she just leaps off a cliff without hesitation and then climbs back up with no problem, like it's just natural. You would never have caught an untrained kid Gohan doing some type of stuff like that. Gohan before Piccolo whipped him into shape was a pillow. Bro was too scared to do anything. But when it comes to Pan, it's no issue. I feel Pan takes more after Videl's boldness, or actually Goten and Trunks. She definitely seems braver than Gohan was at her age. And because of this, Piccolo insists on training Pan as he noticed she was so willing to just jump off a cliff in order to save a frog, making him think, okay, so you really want to be a hero. Alright, what do you say about me training you just like I did for your dad when he was around your age? And of course, Pan agrees. So we get to see it explained to us why Piccolo and Pan started training in the first place, as it wasn't explained in the movie. But while this is all going on, Krillin is over here at the police station explaining to newbies the rundown on who Dr. Hedo is, and who he's related to, as a means of explaining to us as the readers more about Hedo, and we learn that Dr. Hedo is the grandson of Dr. Gero, and the son of Gero's second son. Gero apparently had two children, Android 16, and an unnamed person we still don't have any clue as to who it is. And as Krillin is explaining to us Hedo's origins and whatnot, it's also said that they're planning to ambush the meeting between the Red Ribbon Army and Hedo when he's released from prison, as it's inevitable that the Red Ribbon will go try to recruit him into the fold due to Hedo inheriting and memorizing Dr. Gero's bio-organic weapon. And just as Krillin and the police force predict, we see only a page later the Red Ribbon is discussing the fact that Hedo leaves prison 3 months later, and how Magenta wants Carmine to make sure that he's recruited, so that he could accomplish one of the most cliche tasks of all, world domination. Which, it's Dragon Ball, it's always been kind of silly and cliche at times. But fast forward 3 months, and just as everyone had said, Hedo is released from prison, and in the same fashion he did in the movie as well, leaving a nice bomb for the prison as a last dig-in before he leaves. Magenta and Carmine arrive to introduce themselves, and to their surprise, Hedo already knows about them, and who they are as he did his research. He was also perceptive enough to notice Carmine was spying on Hedo beforehand, and so he decided to have Hachimaru, his cyborg bee, tail him. So at this point, Hedo already knew what they had planned, due to Hachimaru recording their conversation months prior when they were discussing recruiting Hedo. However, he wasn't able to hear everything, so Magenta insists on him hopping in the car with him in order to explain in more detail. And as this is happening, we see Krillin preparing to follow the car so that the police force could learn the Red Ribbon's base location. I get the idea that Krillin is trying to stay low, so he's not using his power to fly above the car, but clinging onto it the way he did still seemed dumb. I feel like flying a decent amount above the car would have been much stealthier and make more more sense, but it is what it is. And because Krillin decided to cling on to the car, Hedo notices his giant head through the window, and decided to call Hachimaru to come solo Krillin and get him off their backs. Which I'm not kidding. Hachimaru is actually giving Krillin the work the whole time Hedo and Magenta are having a discussion. And instead of just shooting a ki blast and destroying it, Krillin decides to bring out his Wayayada pistol and shoot it despite the fact he's meant to lay low and undetected. Normally, gunshots aren't stealthy, but it works somehow, and nobody hears it. But of course, a bullet wasn't enough to stop Hachimaru, as within the click of a few buttons, he's back up for more and decides to clap Krillin and embarrass him with one attack. Which, I love Krillin, but he'll never live this one down. Even if there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. But skip forward half a year and we see Pan how she was in the movie, training with Piccolo after school just as he promised. And after sparring with her for a bit, Piccolo mentions that she might have more talent for training and fighting than even Gohan, which I'm cool with. I'd love to see Pan become a goated fighter too. And for the most part, these pages of interaction between the two play out almost identical to the movie. The next morning, Videl calls up Piccolo asking him to pick up Pan again, which I'm assuming has been happening a lot during the half of the year we skipped forward. As we can see inside of Piccolo's house, there's a bunch of plushies, in which Videl offers to buy every time she asks Piccolo to pick up Pan. So Piccolo is kind of thinking, what is so important that Gohan can't get off of his chair and go see his own daughter? And so he decides to give him a piece of his mind. Nothing really new or that different here. Piccolo sees that Gohan is just studying and learning about bugs and lacking in his training, which is very obvious and clear to us as well due to the fact that he initially struggles to wear the same armor he used to wear during the Cell arc, which is kind of crazy to think about, the fact that teen or kid Gohan was able to with ease, yet adult Gohan sort of struggles a bit when first putting it on. It really goes to show how much he hasn't been keeping in shape and relying too much on Goku and Vegeta to carry everyone. But as Piccolo leaves to continue his training before needing to pick up Pan from preschool, trying to get himself to focus on his meditation, he is then interrupted by one of the Gammas Dr. Hedo made, Gamma 2. And we can see that Gamma 2 does this by shooting at him, believing he's still the evil King Piccolo he used to be, which is obvious as he's meant to be a superhero, believing that Bulma and anyone tied to her are villains because of Magenta tricking Hedo into believing as such. So just like in the movie, I'm assuming in the next chapter we're going to get a fight between the two and watch Piccolo struggle, as apparently Gamma 1 and 2 are comparable to Goku and Vegeta, which some might call BS, but we'll see. Anyway, that wraps up the chapter. Overall, it was just a paper version of the movie with some additional moments and details that weren't present at the time, but not a bad chapter at all. Pretty alright. Nothing too crazy or revolutionary, but I liked it. Always cool to see the story focus on other characters besides Goku for a change. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.